reading our public notice. Thereafter, I'll start to call the applications. When you hear your application called, please step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and we'll begin. Notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Islip will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 31st, 2021 at Town Hall West, 401 West Main Street, Islip, New York, on the following applications at the time listed or as soon thereafter as they may be reached. At such time, all interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard, dated August 26, 2021. John M. Lorenzo, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, our first application tonight is number 538-21, Thomas Perrone, to renew permit for two-family, family use only, Residence A District, east side of Brooklyn Boulevard, number 1465, 620 feet north of Chestnut Drive, Bayshore, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Second call.
Second call, Mr. Chairman. Next application, number 539-21, Marianne LaRocca and Marielina Capiello, to renew permit for two-family, family use only, Residence A District, west side of Louis Kossuth Avenue, number 1952, 496.4 feet south of 4th Street, Ronkonkoma. Is there anyone here for the applicant? We're batting 1,000. Second call, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Next application. Third time's a charm. Number 540-21, Ronald F. Burke, to renew two-family, family use only, pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-419.1, Residence A District, north side of Craig Road, number 21, 255 feet west of Woods Road, Islip Terrace, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Wow.
We ever gone this deep into the batting order?
Next application, number 541-21, Henry Giovanni, look at that, Aguilar, and Gloria V. Aguilar. Permission to establish accessory apartment pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68602, Residence A District, north side of West Orange Street, number 143, 275 feet east of Mayflower Avenue, Brentwood, New York. For the applicant, you get the grand prize.
I'm
tonight.
here.
That's right. Oh, 90% of winning is showing up. So
There you
look at
go.
you.
Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
And with you, ma'am.
This is my daughter, Emma.
Okay. Welcome.
So we're here to establish an accessory apartment. It is 520 square feet. The home is owner occupied and the driveway has been approved by engineering.
Great. Everything's in order in the file. Driveway's approved. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a great night,
Thank you,
guys.
you too. Next application, number 542-21, Thomas and Michelle Ganley. Permission to establish two-family, family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code Section 68-419.1, Residence B District, east side of Brandy Avenue, number 61, 108.3 feet south of Beach Street, Holbrook, New York. Who's here for the applicant and with the applicant? Name and address, please.
Claire Greco, CKG Permit Service, offices at 9 Station Court, Bellport, New York. Here with Michelle Gandy, the homeowner, and Lydia Tremmel, mother. So
How are you tonight?
We're here to establish the first time around two-family use for Lydia to live with her mother. We have a building permit in place for an addition that's currently under construction, and we're hoping the board will view favorably for two-family use.
Great. Everything seems to be in order. Ages criteria. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thanks for showing up. Next application, number 543-21, Michael and Alicia P. Olberg, permission to leave driveway having a side yard of 2.5 feet instead of required 4 feet, Residence A District, north side of Brook Street, number 215, 390.63 feet east of Matthews Road, Oakdale, New York. Name and address for the record, please, ma'am and sir.
Sure, Michael Olberg, and this is Alicia Olberg, 215 Brook Street, Oakdale.
Okay, you can lower your mask if you wish, but it's your choice.
Excellent, no, thank you.
How are you guys tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. You have a driveway a little too close on the corner.
Yes.
You see this a lot. Seems de minimis. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
All right.
Application granted. Have a great night, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have a
very
great night.
much.
Stay safe.
Next application number 544-21, James and Diane Sheridan, permission to establish a two-family, family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68-419.1, Residence B District, north side of Maple Street, number 159, 93.79 feet west of Smith Avenue, Islip, New York. For the applicant, name and address, gentlemen.
Thomas Bloor, the architect for the project, 60 Carlton Avenue, Suite 202, Islip Terrace, New York, 11752.
And with you?
James Sheridan, homeowner, 159 Maple Street.
Thank you, sir.
How are you guys tonight?
Good. Pretty straightforward application. Intent is to establish a two-family family use. We're looking to create a space for his mother on the first floor, approximately 690 square feet with a side entrance.
Perfect, everything seems to be in order. Age works there. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application for a period of 3 years.
All in favor? Application granted, seen 3 years.
Thank you.
Mr. Bloor, we'll see you in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Next application number 545-21, Taylor Coupe, permission to reconstruct dwelling and erect second-story addition, leaving a side yard of 2.9 feet instead of the required 14 feet, total side yards of 19.1 feet instead of the required 28 feet, rear yard of 14 feet instead of the required 25 feet, to erect roofed over porch, leaving a side yard of 7.1 feet, all having a floor area ratio of 26.03% instead of the permitted 25%. Residence B District, east side of McCall Avenue, number 514, 200 feet north of Fifth Street, West Islip, New York. Name and address for the record, please, sir and ma'am.
Thomas Bloor, the architect for the project, 60 Carlton Avenue, Suite 202, Islip Terrace, New York, 11752.
How are you tonight, again?
Hi, my name is Taylor Coupe. I'm the homeowner at 514 McCall Avenue, West Islip.
How are you tonight?
Good. So yeah, the intent of this application is to construct a new second-story addition over the existing footprint of the dwelling, as well as adding a new covered front porch. The existing lot is very small. It's a non-conforming lot, contains a very small 1.5-story home, approximately 749 square feet. The existing second floor is 248 square feet. We're looking to remove that, construct a new second floor directly on top of the existing first floor and foundation, which will be 501 square feet, leaving a house approximately 1,002 square feet of living space. The FARs,
Or if I can just ask you, it's 2.9 feet at 1 story now, right?
1.5.
1.5, and you want to make it a full 2 story?
There's only a small portion that's the 2.9 feet. If you take a look at the survey or my plot plan handed in, the majority of the house has a setback roughly 6.6.
I'm gonna be honest, I never thought 6.6 feet would look so good.
Right?
You're right.
And 7.5, the house is not perpendicular or aligned with the side property line.
So how much higher is 2 stories as opposed to 1.5?
This is the picture.
As opposed to 1.5, I would say the existing house is approximately 20 feet. New house is 26 at the center. The roof is
Right, the roof line, right. And
sideways, so
it's a
that
peaked
26
roof.
is only at the midpoint of the house.
Understood, thank you.
What is the length of the addition that's at 2.9?
That's at the 2.9? Sure. Ten feet.
What's right next to,
It's residential, surrounding it on all sides. Every other house in the area is really more like a conforming house, so it's much closer to the street.
The house-
It's the, I'm sorry, Mr. Messina.
No,
It's the-
please.
It looks like it's is the arrow the applicant's house?
Correct.
It's all in the back, and looks like there's vegetation next to it.
Yeah, there's a ton of vegetation. You know, if an aerial's done in the summertime, you almost can't see. Also, that space, is, I have a double closet inside a bedroom with no windows whatsoever.
Hey,
in
Mr.
the
Bloor,
exterior.
isn't it a fact, I'm looking at the pictures, that both 2-story houses on either side of it as well?
Correct.
right? So you're not looking down on anybody? right?
No.
In fact,
And like I said, there's
you're
no
kind of
windows
evening
there.
the score a little bit.
Yeah, this seems to be probably the narrowest lot in the area.
It's an odd one.
I
It
know
must,
the area has a lot of narrow
Thank you.
lots.
yeah, it must predate the code. The CO states it came in for a CSC in the 70s to be legalized.
Can we condition this this, that you don't go any closer? I mean, you only have about 27 inches.
Absolutely.
You put a bow window in your.
It's, all right, so the side yard, total side yards, roof over porch 7.1, that holds the side of 7.1 now to house, and floor area ratio 26, but we see up to 30. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to grant these.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Good luck. Next application number 546-21, Christine Weeks and Aaron Finkelstein, permission to erect 1- and 2-story additions, resulting a floor area ratio of 28% instead of permitted 25%, Residence B District, northeast corner of Jefferson Avenue, number 89, and McKinley Street, Islip Terrace. Name and address, please, for the record, ma'am.
Amy DeVito, Woodhull Expediting, with offices at 1031 Main Street, Port Jefferson.
Thank you.
How are you tonight?
I'm good. It's good to see everybody in person.
Yeah, goodness.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my client is proposing a 1- and 2-story addition, which would total at approximately 630 square feet. The purpose of the addition is to enlarge the kitchen, create a dining room, which will be located behind the existing garage. And as far as the 2nd story, that is just going to create a small storage room. As part of the construction for this property, or for this project rather, they will be demolishing the existing deck and sunroom. And
Did you
I'm
say
happy
it-
to answer any questions.
Did you say a story room?
Yeah, it's just going to be a small like closet upstairs. They're just removing
I
the
don't know
small
what a
deck and
story
replacing
room
it.
is. That's why I'm asking.
A closet.
Oh, storage room.
Storage.
Oh, I thought you said story.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, a story room.
I
Yeah,
thought it was
that's a
maybe
new
something
thing.
magical. You read to kids, something cool.
Sorry.
So you're looking for 28 to 25, again, we see up to 30. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant you.
All in favor?
All right.
Application granted.
Thank you. Good
Have a
night.
good
Thank you. Have a great night. Next application, number 547-21, Brian H. and Julie A. Bilello. Permission to leave roofed over porch 7 feet by 42.3 feet, having a front yard of 33.4 feet instead of required 40 feet. Residence A District, east side of Penny Street, number 35, 150 feet south of Altamar Avenue, West Islip. Name and address for the record, please, ma'am and sir.
Hi, Julie Bolello, 35 Penny Street, West Islip, New York, 11795, and
Brian Below.
Thank you.
How are you guys tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good. So you're seeking permission for roofed over porch, a little too close. Deidre, any pressing hearing?
Haven't seen it.
We promise never to
Never to
enclose.
enclose? You promise never,
I
right?
promise. My legs are crossed, but I promise.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion to grant the application on the condition that the applicant and any future homeowners never enclose.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye. Next application, number 548-21, Philemon Aliaga, Fiorella Vega, and Jamie Vega, permission to leave a shed having a second front yard of 19.5 feet instead of required 35 feet, and pool deck having rear yard of 2.1 feet and side yard of 4.8 feet instead of the required 10 feet each. Residence AA District, southeast corner of Poplar Street, number 68, and Islip Avenue, Central Islip. Name and address for all three of you, please, for the record.
My name is Fiorella Vega, and 68 Poplar Street is the address.
Jamie Vega, same address?
Same address.
Thank you.
How are you tonight?
Um,
You can pull the microphone up close, we can't really hear you.
Hi, sorry.
So you seeking permission to leave a shed, a pool deck.
Mhm.
I'm a little.
But with less.
Oh, gotcha. Never mind. I misread. I apologize. It's been a long day. Gotcha. Right. Gotcha.
It doesn't matter.
All right, sorry about that, guys. So we have a shed, second front yard, 19.5 instead of 35 required. Pool deck, 2.1 and 4.8 instead of 10 each. Yes.
No one.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
All in favor? Application granted.
All right,
Have a
thank you.
great night.
Have a nice
Thank you. Have a great night. Next application number 549-21, Gregory P. Milan and Jerry Ann L. Ramos. Permission to leave deck with stairs having a rear yard of 19.7 feet instead of the required 25 feet. Shed having a side yard of 0.4 feet instead of the required 2 feet. Residence B District East Side of Second Court, number 19, 91.79 feet south of Victory Drive, Ronkonkoma, New York. Sir, name and address for the record, please.
Gregory Milan, 19 Second Court, Ronkonkoma.
Welcome.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. So you're seeking permission, deck with stairs, 19.7 instead of 25, and side yard of a shed, 0.4 instead of 2. That seems de minimis. Is there any objection for the deck with stairs, Penny? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you very much.
Next application number 486-21, Wellington J. Chica. Permission to leave gazebo having 14.8 feet behind the front lines of the dwelling instead of the required 20 feet. Pool patios on side and rear property line instead of required 6 feet each. Rear yard landscaping of 17.58% instead of required 40%. And to leave roofed over second story deck resulting in floor area ratio of 26% instead of permitted 25%. Residence A District West Side of Mayflower Avenue, number 478, 100 feet north of Peach Street, Brentwood, New York. Sir, ma'am, name and address for the record.
Wellington Chico, 478 Mayflower Avenue, Brentwood, New York, 91717.
Thank you.
And Videlsa Espinal, same address.
Thank you.
How are you tonight?
Great.
So you have a gazebo. It's not far enough behind.
Do you have any pictures of the gazebo?
That's the gazebo. And here. So the pool patio is dated from planning, and the rear yard landscaping.
That's the only thing I think I have an objection to. I'd like there to be at least 20%. They can do that.
So your rear yard landscaping is a little short from what the code states. So planning would like to see it at 20%. You're at 17.58%.
It's still a 50% reduction.
Yeah.
Very generous.
Which is very
Ms.
generous
Ryan.
of,
So it's just the gardening area.
excuse me?
It's just the gardening area in the back, the pool patio?
I don't,
You just need a little bit more grass.
Okay,
Yeah.
no problem.
so however you get to the 20%
That's up to you.
is up to you. You can speak with planning and find out how you can get there if you'd like to, at a different date. On there, the gazebo is not 20 feet behind the front line dwelling. I don't, you have a phone? You- No, it's not a shed.
Very pleasant.
And the rear, the pavers are, they're pervious, right? They drain?
Yes.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to deny that portion of the application having to do with the rear yard landscaping of 17.58% and instead to grant the rear yard landscaping of 20% instead of the required 40% and grant balance of the application. Second.
In favor? So you can contact planning and see how you can get to that.
Good job.
Thank you.
Did you do
So
it?
we just gotta contact them?
No, we didn't do it. We had to.
Well, we have.
Just take credit for
Slaved away. Next application was adjourned previously from July 20th, 2021 and August 10th, 2021. Number 431-21, Charles H. and Adele Spencer. Permission to erect a one-story addition, leaving a side yard of 11 feet instead of required 14 feet. To erect a second-story addition, two-story addition, two one-story additions, and roofed-over veranda, all having total side yards of 25 feet instead of required 28 feet, and floor area ratio of 30.9% instead of permitted 25%, and to install driveway, leaving a front yard occupancy of 39% instead of permitted 35%. Residence A District, east side of Davidson Lane, number 51, 623.37 feet south of Magoon Road, West Islip, New York. Sir, name and address for the record, and can you please start by telling us why this was previously adjourned?
Good evening. David Bush, registered architect, offices at 90 West Main Street, Bayshore, New York. With me in the audience tonight are Charlie and Adele Spencer, the owners of the home.
How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great.
The prior adjournment had to do with an update to the call relative to the total aggregate on the side yard. That was the primary reason for adjournment. So since that date, we had a secondary submission with the zoning department with the current plans you're looking at that are dated August 10th. And the call was updated to include the current side yard requests and the total aggregate request that's in the call.
And why was it adjourned from July 20th in the first instance, if you know?
July 20th, it was adjourned relative to the FAR request and the total side yard request. They felt that they were aggressive. We asked to review some precedent with the planning department as opposed to the zoning department, which we did. We reviewed 7 with Deidre, and through FOIA, we're able to obtain 7 different precedents, which we'll submit to the board this evening.
Thank you very much.
Great. And the floor area ratio 30.9, I believe we spoke about this last time. I think that's impressive in the area. Driveway, front yard actually 39 instead of 35. We see up to 40. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions?
So I would like to submit for the board the precedent for the requested side yard variances and FAR.
Sure.
That's appropriate, right?
I didn't know if this gentleman would like to be heard. So
I'm
Are
sorry.
they within,
Why don't we submit the precedent and then we'll talk about that a little bit then? Yes, Frank.
are they within a 500-foot radius of the
Yes.
subject property?
And as well, this is actually a letter from the gentleman who's going to speak in favor of the project, Hugo Valenti.
The gentleman behind you?
He is.
All
Yes.
right.
Why do you think he has his back turned to him?
That's it.
So would you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, let him speak then.
Okay.
Interested party. My name is Hugo Valenti. I reside at 55 Davidson Lane East in West Islip. My home is adjacent to and north of the Spencer's property. I have no objection to the proposed plans to extend constructions on the north side that will reduce the buffer zone on the sideline, on the side of the building, down from the required 14 feet down to 11 feet from my property line. I saw the plans and I have no problem with it.
Perfect.
Now, with respect to the Spencers, they already live in the neighborhood. They have, in fact, for the past 30 years or so. They are excellent neighbors, and I would like to look forward to have them as my neighbors in the future.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Please regard my remarks as a positive endorsement for the project.
Sure.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. You have a great night. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Ms. Wax, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion that we grant the application.
All in favor? Application granted.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great
Next
evening.
application number 550-21, Patricia M. and Frank Churchirillo, permission to erect a second-story addition, 19.3 feet by 24.2 feet irregular, leaving a front yard of 16.5 feet instead of the required 25 feet, Residence B District, northeast corner of Wikers Avenue, number 61, and Adelphi Place, Ronkonkoma, New York. Sir, ma'am, name and address for the record, please.
Frank Ciccarello, 61 Wikers Avenue, Ronkonkoma.
Patricia Chitrell, same address.
Thank you.
How are you guys tonight?
Yeah.
Good, thanks. Second story addition. It appears your house holds 16.5 now, right?
Yes,
In the front?
correct.
So you're not looking to go any further into the front yard setback?
Nope. We're not changing the footprint of the house.
Great. Deirdre, I'm assuming no objection from planning? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? The board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Great night.
Thank you. Have a great night. Next application, number 551-21, Stephen P. Highland. Permission to install in-ground pool, leaving a rear yard of 8 feet instead of the required 14 feet, Residence A District, north side of Bay First Street, number 15, 296.74 feet west of St. Mark's Avenue, Islip, New York. Name and address for the
My
record.
name is Max Montalbano. I represent Mr. Highland. I'm at 50 Andrew Avenue in Islip Terrace.
Thank you.
Aren't you the guy that just comes and helps all his neighbors out?
I was thinking the
Was he?
same
Was he?
thing.
Was he?
Yeah.
On the Zoom
That
meeting,
was
right?
only
He's
on
like, "I'm
Zoom.
just helping
That was
out."
only on Zoom.
I was used to
He's just a model citizen.
That's it. I remember sitting there going, he just helps his neighbors out? That's it. All right. Sorry, go ahead. Nice to see you again.
Thanks, you too. And it's a little different from last time when we saw each other.
Yes, yes, a little different.
I had to wear pants.
Us too.
I know.
So you're here, do you want to state your case, or you want me to?
You can if you want to. It's about, in-ground pool. We're asking for 8 feet instead of 14 feet.
Yep.
On the rear yard.
Sure. We do like, Deirdre, any precedent for
Deidre?
the rear yard?
The pool's granted in the area seems to be more so around rear yards of 10 and 11. There is rear yard granted 9 feet, and there's 2 from the 90s that was granted for rear yards of 60.
So we do have some precedent in the area.
Right.
And one side complies, which we like to see.
Correct.
I'm familiar with the area, very familiar. I don't, this fits.
All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? The board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to grant the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
great night.
Next application,
Enjoy.
number 552-21, Donald Slater and Christine Gamole. Permission to install an in-ground pool, leaving a rear yard of 10 feet instead of the required 14 feet to leave driveway having a side yard of 0.6 feet instead of required 4 feet, deck having a side yard of 3.4 feet instead of the required 4 feet, shed having a side yard of 1.4 feet instead of required 2 feet, Residence A District, south side of Phillips Street, number 132, 700 feet west of Coates Avenue, Holbrook, New York. Name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
Deborah Yelvington, Dynamic Permits, 20 Waterford Drive, Wheatley Heights, New York, 11798.
How are you tonight?
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm representing Don Slater and Christine Jamali, and they have been owners of this property since 2013. They've made several improvements already, nice landscaping, siding, new windows on the house. The shed in question had been established there before with the setback, I've highlighted this enlarged survey, with the setback of 1.4 instead of
We
the 2
see them a
feet.
lot. That's the Minnesota sheds.
Okay. And they did not add the deck, it was prior owner had done that. The deck that's encroaching to 3.4 feet, that's required to have 4. And that is a deck that's only 9 inches above grade, does not require a building permit, but is encroaching on that side yard. We feel that's de minimis in nature.
It's on a little corner of it. approaching right
The
there.
driveway had also been expanded over 10 years or so. There is a planting area. It's not along the whole property line that it's reduced to the .6, but a good portion of it, they just have big SUVs and it's more parking space.
We see that a lot too.
And the proposed pool, in-ground pool of 28 by 14. We have more than enough on the side yard, over 41 feet on one side, over 28 on the other, requesting 10 foot in the rear yard. It's a real top, tight lot.
I like how you went from the lightest request down to the heaviest request,
Yeah.
backwards in the call. I like that.
Get rid of the easy ones first.
Warmed you up.
Oh, as my board member, Mr. Wexler, said before, we like to see one side comply. That does, I'm assuming Deirdre has no objection for the 10? All right, there we go. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? I'm sorry, did I cut you off? You want to keep talking?
Oh, actually, I do want to just submit 2 neighbor affidavits. Neighbors went to the trouble of speaking to their neighbors to make sure. If I could read them into the record.
You don't have to read them, just submit them, please.
Sorry?
You don't have to read them, you can just submit them, it's
Okay,
fine.
just bordering neighbors at 26 Half Hollow Road and 134 Charles Street.
Understood, thank you.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Where are we here? Mr. Messina, I will take a motion.
Motion to grant.
All in favor? Aye. Application granted.
Thank you
Have a
very
great
much.
night.
Have a good evening.
Next application number 553-21, Michael F. Brush and Vanessa Gilberti. Permission to install an in-ground pool leaving side and rear yards of 10 feet instead of the required 14 feet each. Residence A District, northwest corner of Dale Drive, number 110, and Mina Road, Oakdale, New York. Sir, your name and address for the applicant, for the record, and welcome.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the applicant, Steve Bertolino, 130 West Main Street, East Islip, New York. I like how you emphasized the and that call of the meeting. As you can see, we're asking for both a side and a rear yard relaxation. I think in this case, it may or may not warrant it. We believe it does warrant it. As you can see from the survey, the house is situated on the lot on an angle. I want to let the board know that the application was submitted as a free-form 18-foot wide pool. We have since modified that to bring it down to 16 feet because we recognize that in asking for this variance, we want to make the smallest pool possible and still have the diving capability, which we need to be the 16 feet. That being said, when you come out the back door of the house, there is a raised platform from the door. So you would come out of the platform 2 or 3 steps down onto the patio. Without the variance in the rear yard, the hardship would be the pool would literally be right on top of your exit and egress area from the house. With respect to the side yard, you can see that this is a corner lot, so we do have to maintain certain distance off of the second front. We do have the house at an angle also on that side of the property, so that if we pull the pool further to the south, we wind up getting, or pinching, if you will, into the house that is angled. In keeping with the nature and character of the area, my understanding is that there is precedent in the area, perhaps Deirdre can confirm. I believe it's 103 Dale Drive has a pool on the side with a 6-foot setback. There appears to be 2 or 3 other ones in the area as well, but I don't have the addresses on those. I don't think if this board were to grant it that we'd have any adverse environmental impact, and I think the benefits clearly outweigh to the applicant, clearly outweigh any detrimental to the community.
Did you have precedent that Mr. Bertolino stated there? Okay. And the pool seems to be free-form, so it's only corners that are 10 and 10.
Well, as I said, Mr. Lorenzo, we're changing it to a rectangle to
Oh, I'm
squeeze
sorry.
it. We're making it actually smaller.
Gotcha.
So that we can, comply as best we can.
All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. McCarroll, take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. You have a great night.
Thank you. Be well.
Next application number 554-21, Kristen Woods. Permission to erect a second-story addition, 22.2 feet by 24.3 feet, leaving front yard of 14.8 feet instead of the required 25 feet, and side yard of 12 feet instead of required 14 feet. Residence B District, north side of Eastview Road, number 89, 819.3 feet east of Rosevale Avenue, Ronkonkoma, New York. Name and address for the applicant, ma'am and sir, please.
Hi, Kristen Woods, 89 Eastview Road, Ronkonkoma, New York, 11779.
Thank you.
Jonathan Woods, same address.
Thank you.
How are you all tonight?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you. You're looking to erect a second story addition.
Yes.
Front yard's a little tight. Seems that you have a 14, 75, 25.
We're currently non-conforming as is.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
We're currently non-conforming as a
Yeah.
first-story home.
That's right. And side yard 12 instead of 14. Kristen, please. Deirdre, any objection from planning? Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Board of any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
That's the best reaction, you know?
It's been like 5 years. That's the best reaction I've had.
God
All right.
bless. Next application number 555-21, Rhonda Friedman. Permission to modify decking with outdoor shower, leaving rear yard of 7.3 feet instead of required 15 feet to erect accessory structure of 14.3 feet by 23.4 feet, leaving rear yard of 7.3 feet and side yard of 6.2 feet instead of the required 10 feet each, occupying 19.23% of rear yard instead of the permitted 12.5% to erect detached shed, leaving a side yard of 8.1 feet instead of the required 10 feet. Total side yards of 20.6 feet instead of the required 25 feet. To leave shed underneath dwelling having a front yard of 25.9 feet instead of the required 60 feet, and to leave 2 air conditioning units, 1 unit not having side yard of 10 feet, both not having required front yard of 60 feet. Residence BAA District, west side of Ivy Avenue, number 57, 363 feet south of Neptune Walk, Seaview, New York. Name and address, please, sir.
Good evening, Glenn Graham with Graham Associates, Bayshore, New York, representing the Friedmans.
How are you tonight, sir?
Good, how's everybody doing?
Great, thanks.
I can submit to the board, I have 7 letters of support, all for adjacent neighbors and a couple nearby neighbors. There's also some pictures in here of some of the subject items, particularly the air conditioning units that are well screened by vegetation. There's also a picture of the shed that's under the house. I believe it was built with the house. It holds the hot water heater, and the homeowner just has some firewood under that. So I can submit that.
Thank you.
Would the board like me to discuss each individual item? Or there is a bunch of little things, they're mostly de minimis. We're really here. What got us here was the accessory structure in the rear yard.
Yep.
It currently exists. We're just looking to expand it slightly up to 335 square feet. I believe planning will concur with me. There is precedent in the area similar. If you also look at the aerials, our neighbors directly to the west have a accessory structure at 547 square feet that occupies 20.3% of their rear yard. And the Lubowitz house just to the north of that one also has a 389 square feet detached structure. That's about 17.5%. So I believe there is precedent for everything that we're asking for tonight.
Great. Deirdre from planning, is that all confirmed?
There's precedent for rear yards, 3.8, side yards, 4.9, shed front yards, back side yards of 6 feet.
Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? The board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you. I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
All in favor?
All right.
Thank you.
Application granted.
Next application number 556-21, Benjamin and Christine Todd, permission to erect a 2-story dwelling utilizing Central Walk as primary front yard without presence of front door. To erect 2nd-story deck, leaving side yard of 10 feet, 1st-story deck leaving rear yard of 6.8 feet instead of required 15 feet each, resulting in floor area ratio 39.97% instead of permitted 30% to install hot tub, leaving a 2nd front yard of 15 feet instead of the required 20 feet. Air condenser units not having front yard of 60 feet or side yard of 10 feet to install sanitary systems above grade by more than 12 inches bermed, leaving front yard of 8 feet and 10 feet instead of required 15 feet. Residence BAA District, northwest corner of Island Walk, number 18, and Central Walk, Lonelyville, New York. Sir, again, your name and address for the record, please.
Glenn Graham, Graham Associates, Bayshore, New York. representing Ben and Christine Todd. Ben is with me tonight. What got us here, this house was built in 1969. It's one off the bay in Lonelyville. It's an older home. We were looking to do a FEMA lift to get it out of the flood zone. It's a requirement to lift the house when you're doing some work to it. We explored lifting it and found that it would be more economical to rebuild pretty much in the same place. The house as it exists today is generally in the same location as where we're putting the new one. There is an existing shed on the property that we're going to replace. The low nitrogen septic system is bermed, so even though it is above grade, we have to keep it 2 foot above groundwater, and that is a Suffolk County Health Department requirement. So in general, we have a conforming house in its location. I believe there's precedent for the FAR and some of the decks that we're asking for. I believe planning would be able to concur with that as well.
Peter from planning?
There's a second story deck outside there of 12, FAR 36.2, there's FAR 36.3 and 39. Deck side yard 3 feet as well. Even the sanitary system, there's a precedent for that with a front yard of 6 feet.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I didn't hear what was the precedent, what?
For the FAR,
Yes.
there was there's a 36.2, a 37.3, and a 39.
The 39 was from 2015.
Next question.
I guess 40 is our new. Is the new, yeah, it's the new 35.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion that we grant the application.
All in favor?
Thank you very much.
Well,
Have a
Mr.
great
Chairman,
night.
we're a little ahead of the 7 o'clock calendar, so with your permission, I'd like to recall some from the beginning of the meeting that we lost the second call.
Sure.
Who do we have? All right, in the first application, number 538-21, Thomas Perrone, to renew permit for family use only residence A district, east side of Brooklyn Boulevard, number 1465, 620 feet north of Chestnut Drive, Bayshore, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, Thomas Perrone, 1465 Brooklyn Boulevard, Bayshore.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good. Here to renew permit to family use only, age is a criteria. Everything looks to be in order. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, you'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for a period of 2 years.
Thank you.
3 years, right?
No, 2, he was late.
Yeah, I don't know why I said 3 years.
3 years.
That was weird.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted, sir.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Good night, have a great night.
Have a good day.
Number 539-21, Mary Ann LaRocca and Marilena Capiello to renew permit. Anyone here on this? Okay, third call for that one. Next application, number 540-21, Ronald F. Burke, to renew family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68-419.1, Residence A District, north side of Craig Road, number 21, 255 feet west of Woods Road, Islip Terrace, New York. Ma'am, when you get here, name and address for the record, please. Take your time.
We are on, Burke. It's 540-21.
There you go.
We can move it. What if she has to come down? We can move it down, huh? Good evening.
Good evening. Hello.
How are you? Name and address for the record, please. You could pull it, we can't really hear you, so if you don't mind pulling the mask down, that'd be great.
The name is Arlene Burke. The address is 21 Craig Road, Islip Terrace, New York, 11752.
How are you today?
I'm hanging pretty good.
So renewal permit, family use only, medical is the criteria, everything seems to be in order.
Yes.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
I make a motion that we grant the application for 3 years.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. See you in 3 years.
Or maybe it's 2 years.
3 years. He made a mistake before, so.
Thank you very much. Have a great
Joking.
night.
Have a great night.
We still have 4 minutes, Mr. Chairman. Do you want to take a 5-minute recess?
Yes, we can't hear until the time is called, so have to take a few moments. Be back.
Mine's on. No, it's on.
Check, check.
Really?
I'm like, who is that?
We went to Blue Apron or something. Yeah. Kids that was selling.
Oh, nice. I like the closest.
It's always got to stoke the plant. Yeah.
How's things here? We moving right along? Where are we?
Just go home and.
Good, let's take another turn.
Answer your question. What do you think?
Feeling good.
That was.
Yeah, we started at the,
That's the main reason why I, these delivery meal things, that's the main reason why I canceled the way.
Yeah.
My wife made burgers. This is a huge trail. I make burgers. But other than that, I like eating. Yeah, but it was like, it wasn't. So I said, about $90 a meal. I put you right here, Main Street. No. I speak to get out of it. This fall, if any of you guys are into it, so we'll see. I do. You can't treat it like beef or pork. You have to.
Oh, wait, now, he was never fucking Italy.
For Thanksgiving?
Yeah, he wasn't, he wasn't great at it.
Oh, right, right. At least the team called it.
It was exponential.
You know, there's a patch of turkeys that are roosting out in my backyard. One of them got Thanksgiving. I like some.
Mr. Messina, how are you, sir?
I haven't a care in the world, sir.
Me
How about
neither.
yourself?
Me neither.
Eyeball it.
Life is good, I hope.
All good, thank you.
You know, nothing you can improve with a little facial hair.
No doubt.
You know what? Yeah, I can tell.
Listen,
No experimentation.
No, I'll try it, I'll try everything.
All right.
I hope you don't.
Yeah, it's true, that is true. You like the schedule? I will, I had to trick my kids into eating venison
Yeah?
on Christmas, but they love it. They don't know, they still don't know what it
I've
is.
never had it, I heard it's great.
It's still, if you can cook it, it's delicious.
I heard it has to be cooked right.
I'll give you guys their instructions.
Yes.
All right, we're back. Is our tech person here? Do we need to do anything? All right. Next application. Number 557-21, Ronald King Jr. Permission to erect a two-story dwelling on a lot having a width of 53 feet instead of the required 75 feet throughout Residence A District, east side of Fairview Avenue, number 0, 273.05 feet south of Railroad Street, Bayport, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Lorenzo, members of the Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Christopher Modeleski. I'm an attorney at law with offices at 44 Elm Street, suite number 18 in Huntington. I'm here tonight. I'm joined by Mike Lynch, who is a recognized real estate expert. I'll be asking you to permit him to give opinion testimony a little bit later in the presentation, which I hope will be painlessly short. Also, my client is here. His name is Ron King. He's the property owner. Ron is a builder, and he's built homes throughout Suffolk County, and he's recognized as a quality builder. He's also a neighbor because he lives on Fairview, just a little bit to the south of the subject.
Mr. Modeleski, I'm sorry,
Yes.
what's there now?
Nothing, trees.
Okay.
So the subject lot is unimproved. The proposal that we have before you requests one aspect of relief this evening, and I submit to you that what we propose to do with respect to the subject property is to build a home that will, in all respects, observe the tone and tenor of prevailing conditions in the neighborhood, and most significantly for purposes of zoning and for purposes of your review on the application, it'll fit quite squarely within the character of the neighborhood. In this 200-foot radius, the subject property is located in almost a little subset of the neighborhood. The 4 lots immediately to the south of the subject are, like this one, undersized in terms of width. The subject, as you know, provides the area that's required under the code. Those other lots, however, unlike this one, are improved with single-family dwellings.
How wide are they?
The widths,
The 4 to the south. Some look like they're maybe a little bit wider, some look like.
I got them right. I got
Yeah,
'em right
you know,
here.
it was a little bit difficult for me to divine that, Mr. Nicolia, in looking at the radius map. I think Mr. Lynch probably, can we have him sworn? Since you asked the question, can we have Mr. Lynch sworn?
Well, we have the radius map right here, so
Oh,
let's,
okay.
I'll let you. Do
Yeah.
you know off the top of your head, either of you, how many 53s there are in the 200-foot radius?
There's a 50, there's a 54 to the immediately to the south. So there's one under, and then there's the abutting lot immediately to the south is just an inch wider. It's 54 feet versus ours, which is 53.
And how many homes are there in the 200-foot radius? And it's a two-part question. How many are wholly within the 200-foot and how many have a piece? Do you know?
There's 6 lots within the 200-foot radius that are substandard with respect to.
Okay, but what are the total number of lots that fit squarely within the 200-foot radius?
I got 19, 19 for adult, but on a percentage basis, Mr. Wexler, I figured 31.6. But I did admit, and I had this discussion with Mr. Lynch previously, there is one of the lots, we don't know, quite frankly, if it's entitled to your statutory exception. We don't have a survey instrument. I pointed that lot out to you, Mike, and the two of us took a look at it. You know, it may be deserving, what is it, subsection B? C?
Well, before we get there, I'm just trying to figure out, so we have at least 3 lots that are 50, 54, 54, correct?
4 lots.
Oh, there are 4 lots.
4 lots immediately to the south are substandard. They range from 60 feet to 65.
Yeah, the last one down the line is 65.
Okay, but let's stick to 50, 54. We have 3 that are 50, 54, and 54, yes?
The abutting lot immediately to the south.
I just want to know number 3.
54. Then there's a 50.
3.
Then there's.
He's giving you a yes.
Yes, that's
Then there's
okay.
a 60, then a 60.
Okay, just want to know there are 3 in that 50, 54 radius. And there are 19 homes wholly within 200-foot radius.
Correct.
And probably a lot more that may have a piece of the property in the 200-foot radius. You know what I understand by that?
Well, no, I understand what you mean by that, Mr. Wexler, but I tried to take that into account.
Right.
And I had asked at one point, Secretary of the Board, Ms. Passaro, if your planner was going to take a look at this in the same critical way that Mr. Lynch and I took a look at it, because we didn't want to make any misrepresentation to the board in terms of percentages. So I don't know if that got done by the planning department. If it did, I'd be pleased to have them agree or disagree with us with respect to what we found, which was 6 substandard with respect to this one-dimensional relief that we're seeking out of 19, or 31.6.
Additionally, how many vacant undersized lots are there left in that area?
I couldn't find any. Mr. Lynch, did you find anything different?
No, I think it's a pretty well-developed area.
So there's really no threat to
Right.
precedent here.
No, we don't believe so at all, Mr. Nicolia, for 2 reasons. One, because we're, I don't know, my nomenclature would be, I don't know, in this little ghetto sort of in the neighborhood, and I mean that in a good way, not in a bad way. But, this peculiarity in terms of the substandard width is kind of unique to this particular stretch. So, I mean, if we look over on Gillette, and I think this dovetails with your inquiry, I don't think anyone could make an argument elsewhere within the radius in favor of a grant for relief based on the board noting distinguishing factors in this particular case in granting the relief that we seek here tonight. I don't think it's going to get used against you.
I'm looking at this 200-foot radius map, and to build on Mr. Wexler's question, it seems that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lots only that are completely within the 200-foot radius that are not bisected by the 200-foot radius line. And of those 6, it appears that 2 are 75, then the subject, and then 54, 50, and 60.
I think that's accurate.
It fits fairly squarely within the. Am I reading that wrong, Mary?
No, I just wanted to, I hope I didn't cause any confusion. Since November of 2006, the board has used a 500-foot analysis and Deirdre will probably be supplying that.
Oh, okay, all right.
We want to be very thorough because we know someday a judge in the Supreme Court could be reviewing these under Article 78.
Oh, there's no question about that, Mr. Wexler, that certainly could happen. Well,
I have a quick question, Mr. Modeleski.
yes, sir.
I'm reading a letter, a memorandum. It indicates that they examined a chain of title, radius map and survey, and that the subject property has been held in common ownership with the adjoining parcels as follows. Lot 5 to the south, from date unknown through 10/10/50, from 10/10/50 through 6/17/52, 7/18/55 through 12/28/73, 11/10/97 through 11/20/13, and lot 7 to the north from date unknown through 5/1/53.
I'm glad you raised that issue, Chairman Lorenzo. If it's okay with you, I'll hand up to the officer 3 decisions. I've got one for each of the board members. 3 decisions. These are case law citations. And I did think about that before I arrived here this evening. So I would direct the board's attention. I'll also hand these up as well. CO histories of the 2 homes that were identified, I believe correctly by counsel Mr. Barberino, as having been at one time or another held in common ownership with the subject. So the offer of proof with respect to the COs and the legal argument accompanying the submission of the cases is this, that since on or about, I guess, 1950 or so, there have been a number of instances where on either side, the northerly parcel and the southerly parcel, the town has granted certificates of occupancy or certificates of compliance for those 2 parcels, identifying thereon only those individual tax map numbers. So it seems to me that the imprimatur of the town has been vested in this lot as single and separate. So I would also hasten to add that another level of government acknowledges that as well. That's the Suffolk County Department of Health Services. And if I can burden you, I'll go through this as quickly
Before you
as I
do
can.
that, I'm just trying to follow your thought process.
Yeah.
So because the building department granted a CO or a CEU or a CZC, they're putting their imprimatur that what?
It is the recognition of the validity of the separateness of a lot, or in other zoning parlance, Mr. Wexler, if my client or my client's predecessor is accused of having conducted or committed an unlawful subdivision, my answer to that is that the cases seem to say that the recognition by way of the granting and vesting of rights through a building permit on adjacent lots lends itself to recognizing that the lot is in fact separate.
Well, let me just ask a question. The building department sends out inspectors, okay, and they do whatever, 13 inspections for foundation, electrical, plumbing, heating, all that stuff. They're looking at the structure and they say, yes, it meets code, and therefore we're going to issue a CO and it's built in conformance with the plans. Are they necessarily looking, the building inspector who goes out there, who owns the property next door? Or is it held as single and separate? Is it held? That wouldn't be the function of a building inspector. He'd go out, he'd inspect the structure. Would he really somehow do a chain? I mean, we have the town attorney, Mr. Garbarino, do a chain of title search. So we know, would the building inspector, by granting the CO, really consider any of those issues?
Well, I'll answer that question, but I have to answer it with a question, Mr. Wexler. Why didn't, in this instance, the building official simply grant Mr. King a building permit to build the building that he sought? In other words, why was it visited on him that, well, you've got to submit a single and separate search to us, in order to be granted a permit to build a house on a home that otherwise requires just this one aspect of relief, lot
But
width.
you would agree, and again, I don't know the circumstances, we may have to look further into it. You would agree that if it was issued in error, that's not going to bind us.
If what was issued in error?
Yeah, the CO or the building permit.
You
Let's
mean
say it should not have been.
with respect to the lots adjacent to the north and south?
Yes, suppose it should not have been. In other words, you're resting the underpinning of your case on part of it is, look, a CO or a CZC was issued to this house, therefore the town, using your term, has granted its imprimatur that it's okay to build. Let's say it should not have been, its imprimatur should not have been granted. And again, I don't know whether it has, should or should not have, but if it should not have, are we bound by that?
Well, the general rule of law is that a municipality is never stopped from enforcing its own law. So I can't tell you that you're bound by it, Mr. Wexler. All I can tell you is that a better legal mind than mine, in the way of Leon Laser, seemed to make the argument for me that I'm trying to make to you here tonight. And that's in, I don't know if it's in the Lund case or the one of the other two, but I think you know, when you look at it like any member of the citizenry would, average people, even sometimes builders, don't discriminate between the building official, the zoning board, the planning staff. You know, when the town speaks to the average person, the town speaks with one voice. So I think we've got this lengthy history where, you know, the other two properties have been recognized as separate. Certificates have been issued for those properties with respect to just those tax map numbers. And this one has stood alone for a long period of time.
But there was never a subdivision. There was never a split.
Oh, I'm not arguing that there was, Mr. Wexler.
No, I know, I understand that. No, I'm just trying to figure if you have a piece of property, it's a single piece of property. I mean, we call that an illegal subdivision generally, and I know you know zoning. If there's a single piece of property and legally it's one piece of property, it has never been subdivided. Yet there is a building built on that property in a CO, and as I think the case is here, maybe a second building on the same property. Does that somehow legally make it separate property?
I think after repeated recognition by the town of the validity of the permits that were issued to result in certificates, and relying on those three decisions that I put in, the answer is yes, I think it is.
And just one other question.
Yes, sir.
I haven't had the time to read through and digest these decisions. What is the gist of the Lund matter and the Shaughnessy matter? What is it?
Well, there are three of them. They're all essentially the same. And what they say is that the recognition of the validity of other approvals on adjacent properties tends to do exactly what I suggested it would do, which is it sort of creates a presumption that the subject lot, just like, you know, it was similar circumstances in the other three cases. The subject lot has been recognized.
So wait,
you're saying that basically
what you're really saying is if you recognize one portion of the illegal subdivision, you got to recognize all of it.
That's correct, Mr. Messina.
Okay.
And I think that was
That's
the
the
point of the court. Yeah.
That's an interesting, yeah, I don't know if.
I think that gets pretty close to the estoppel
Yeah,
argument.
Mr. Messina, Mr. Garbarino, could you chime in? I know you guys are experts on that area, and I'm not.
Mr. Garbarino.
Mr. Garbarino, you're the resident.
I would like to review the three cases that he submitted.
I mean, it's an interesting theory.
Well, I wasn't going to come here and just ignore, you know, the findings of the town attorney.
You're too good of a lawyer to do that. We appreciate that.
I have something else that I'd like to share. It might even be my favorite exhibit.
Oversharing, Mr. Miles. Be careful.
Well, you know, back about, I don't know, 13, 14 years ago, my fax machine heated up. And what came in was the Crilly decision, Raymond Crilly against the Brookhaven Zoning Board of Appeals. And the guy on the other end of the machine, the other end of the fax machine, was our good friend, your former chairman and former counsel, Mr. Shire. So he had shared this decision with me. He was almost gleeful about it.
It was against Brookhaven?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's why.
Exactly. And in it, Judge Pitts had written in relevant part with respect to this particular application as follows. And it was a case where there were a number of area reliefs that were requested, among them overall area. But Judge Pitts found it probative and I think even you could say important that the County Department of Health Services had recognized the propriety of developing this particular subject parcel with a single family home. I'll just read very briefly from it, and this is the penultimate paragraph. Clearly, by denying the petitioner's application...
You got to slow down a little.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You'll be saying
Clearly,
that a lot.
by denying the petitioner's application, the respondent ZBA is attempting to usurp Suffolk County Department of Health Services findings, and then the judge cites 55 Kennedy Boulevard LLC versus Town of Smithtown, which was a trial term decision by Justice Rebellini. Yeah, the court goes on to say, as such, the court finds that there was no rational basis in denying the petitioner's application, and the determination of the respondent ZBA was arbitrary and capricious. So if I could, I'd like to hand the Crilly decision up, and companion to that, the map for the subject parcel that bears the ever important red stamp of the Suffolk County Department of Health Services with respect to the subject. Thank you.
So, you've been on a zoning board, you've been a chair of the zoning board. Are you a little uncomfortable about a health department decision usurping local zoning?
Well, Mr. Messina, I'm trying to put my best foot forward here.
No. I'm just asking as an academic question, really, not.
Yeah,
anything more than that.
if I were on the other side of this right now, I might say, who cares? But I had it, I found it, and I just felt
It's
I
not
should
who
share.
cares. I think it's a really interesting issue. I really do. Not who cares at all.
Well, it was interesting. It was Shire was representing the petitioner, and Robert F. Quinlan representing the respondent.
So separate and apart from the legal argument, I will tell you in all candor, I mean, had I not thought that the case had merit just based on the prevailing character of the neighborhood, I wouldn't have taken it in the first instance. And I have the same confidence with respect to Mr. Lynch. I've known him for really nearly 30 years. What the client intends, and I have, I've only got one of these. What the client intends is to build a modest home. The health department approval is for a 4-bedroom. He intends a 3. He's got, I call it a mock-up of what it looks like. And the only reason I say that, I mean, they are elevation drawings, and I'll hand that in just a moment. But what he's done is he's marked it up a little bit, I guess, so that one of the reverse gables on the front of the house, as proposed, would be like a Dutch colonial or gambrel style. So he envisions, sort of a humble, appropriate to the lot, and I think pretty stylish home. So I apologize, I have just one of these, but I'm going to hand it up.
No worries.
Unless the board has any additional questions for me, I would ask that you recognize Mr. Lynch as an expert, and I'd just be happy to let him testify in the narrative. If I feel I have to ask him a couple of questions, I will, and certainly you all will do the same.
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Lynch?
Good evening again. It's Michael Lynch, business address 15 Dewey Street, Huntington, New York. I'm here as a real estate expert on this matter, and as Mr. Mataluski indicated, I have testified before this board as well as the planning board many times in the past. You have the radius map that I prepared outlining those parcels within the 200-foot radius. As we went over earlier, with respect to the immediate 4 lots to the south of the property, as well as the lot directly to the west at 294 Fairview Avenue, which is a 65-foot lot, but it does at some point widen, and we're not 100% sure without the benefit of a survey whether or not that's given the benefit of the provision of the lot width, that it may in fact be 75 feet at the 40-foot setback. But nonetheless, the frontage is 65 feet. So you see how I've highlighted on that radius map that it's one of 6 included in the 19, and we came up with a roughly 32% of the lots within the 200-foot radius that are substandard with respect to lot width. The area itself is it's in South Bayport, of course, just south of Railroad. It's an older neighborhood, a mix of bungalows, capes, and smaller colonials. We're proposing, as Mr. Modeliski indicated, a smaller colonial, 3 bedrooms, roughly 2,000 square feet with a 1-car built-in garage. 2 lots to the south of the property, there was actually it was listed on the MLS a few years back as built in 2007, but we found out that it was essentially a tear down, and they maintained part of the original foundation. But I'd like to hand this in. This is at 289 Fairview. That's the 50-foot lot. 2 lots to the south of the subject, and I also have a copy of the survey of that lot. And again, this is similar to what Mr. King is proposing, 3-bedroom colonial. So he's proposing something that'll be in keeping again with the mix of houses up and down Fairview and in South Bayport. I'd like to hand in that MLS of that 289. Okay. Yep. So again, he's proposing a smaller colonial, 3 bedrooms that will be in keeping with the existing older homes up and down Fairview and in South Bayport. The proposed market value, sale price of the home will be roughly $550,000 to $600,000, which certainly will not harm median property values in the immediate area. The most recent sales within the immediate radius were of older homes, and those sale prices range from $450,000 to $490,000. The house that I just handed in, 289, that was recently on the market for $620,000. I'm not exactly sure of the status. It doesn't seem to have gone into contract. However, I think $550,000 to $600,000 proposed sale price is reasonable. I have a zoning board decision that occurred not too far away at 19 Folger Street in South Bayport. I'd like to submit that. I also have a photo of that property. It's at 19 Folger. It was a decision back in 2017. It was known as the Salvo case. That was granted with variance for 50 feet. It was also a lot area of 10,840 square feet, shy of the required area. And it also had a FAR variance as well as side yards. Again, a similar type property. This sold for $650,000, and I'll submit the zoning board case as well as photos of that particular property.
You know, if I can make the observation, I don't believe that the issue is whether or not it fits in the nature and character of the neighborhood, or whether or not it have adverse impacts, all the balancing tests. I think the issue is Mr. Modeleski raised, which is really not your function, is what do we do as a legal issue? The board, is it an illegal subdivision?
I understand.
And I think that's, because it's not a bad application in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
It's how do we get beyond that? And I'd like to research these cases.
Very good, Mr. Wexler. Yeah, I just wanted to, again, put in to conclude that the proposed new home will be in keeping with the existing housing stock in the immediate area. The lot size itself is certainly in keeping, as demonstrated with the other lots immediately to the south of the property on Fairview. The proposed sale price will certainly not harm nearby property values or the median values. It'll only help to raise. So all in all, should the variance for the 54-foot width be granted, I don't see that there'll be any deleterious effect to nearby property values nor adversely impact the pattern of development in the immediate area or the character of the neighborhood in this part of South Bayport.
Thank you, sir.
That concludes my presentation. If there's any questions.
The property owner is here. If any board members want to ask him any questions, I really don't have anything that I think I need to put in through his testimony, but if you want to speak to him, he's here.
I agree with Mr. Wexler.
I agree
think,
with Mr. Wexler too.
yeah, we have one issue to determine. That's a legal one, unless somebody enlightens us on something else during the course of the hearing.
I do would like to hear Deidre's position from planning.
The way I looked at it was more so within the 500-foot radius. I know it keeps bringing up the 200-foot radius, and that kind of makes it seem better than it actually is compared to the 500-foot.
Let her hold it and speak it through.
One thing for us.
I was just going to say.
I'm okay.
Wonderful audio we have here, 401.
Wow, 732.
In the area, there's 7 lots that are under the required width. This one being the least, well, second least along with the other 50-foot lot. With the smallest. There's 52 lots within the 500-foot radius. So that creates kind of a bigger deal in that case, rather than those only 6 lots in the 200 feet. Now there's 52 in the 500 feet, and there's only 7 that are undersized. There wasn't a subdivision granted, so it's really, I'm not too sure about allowing the 53 instead of the 75, especially when there's confusion about what actually was going on, who owned it and things like that. One of the other undersized lots also was noted as actually a guest house, so I'm not even sure if another 50-foot lot really could count towards this because it was already kind of noted as merged with another lot, which is south of this one. I really just don't see how this is like the best case, and I think it really should be looked at a bit more than maybe just tonight.
I agree. If I could just chime in. Also, and Mr. Modeleski, you can add to this if you want. The client who purchased the property bought it on knowledge. He's a builder. So he knew that, not that there's anything wrong with it, but there was no subdivision here, and this could be a potentiality.
Well, what he knew was he was buying this particular tax lot surrounded by other tax lots that were improved. And I think with the understanding, maybe he could clarify it if you like, but with the understanding that those approvals had been issued just on those individual tax lot numbers. And which is just harkens back to my other argument, which is, nobody said, gee, go get consent from the owner of lot 5, or we can't give you a certificate.
If he were to file for a mini subdivision, it would not be granted.
I don't know what would happen.
It just sounds like there'd be
Speculation, objection, speculation.
Overruled.
I don't.
I'm just saying, would he, I don't know if he applied for a subdivision, would it be granted, or is it so out of bounds that this is his only chance here, is his only?
Well, I think it is his only chance, and I think you know, Mr. Wexler, because you've been doing this as a decision maker for long enough.
Not as long as you.
Well, no, but you know that there comes a break point where real property becomes less than valuable to the extent that it's not valuable at all. When your carry charges and the cost of municipal applications gets in the way of making a profit. And in this case, Mr. King actually intends to build the home for a family member. I mean, I know, there are times when, a builder is castigated for just wanting to do what I think we're all entitled to do as Americans, which is make money. But he lives in the neighborhood, and he wants to build his house in the neighborhood for a family member.
Have you ever represented a family member?
To disastrous effect, yeah, it's horrible.
Always a disaster.
Yeah. No, we all know what that's like.
Maybe we're doing him a favor.
I don't know, that could be, Mr. Wexler, but
All right.
I just reserve my right, I don't know if there are any folks here, but I just reserve my right to just close if there are folks here.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Got to come up one at a time, please, and speak into the microphone, name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Lisa Anderson. I'm here with the property owner to the north, Allison Fitzpatrick.
And what's her address, please?
309 Fairview Avenue,
Thank you.
Bayshore.
I just want to make a couple of remarks about the property. It's my understanding that subject parcel was in common ownership with the parcel to the south.
I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
It's my understanding that the property was in common ownership with the property to the south on numerous occasions throughout the years between 1950 and 2013, I believe. The town attorney's office had done the research on that. And it's also my understanding that since it was held in common ownership and it is substandard, that it is considered by the town of Islip to be merged and therefore would require a retroactive minor subdivision, which would then be subject to more scrutiny with regards to precedent for subdivisions of substandard lots and also other impacts associated, which I believe the planning board may have jurisdiction after the zoning board to determine whether or not you would grant the 50-foot lots. I am, as to the nature and character of the area, with the planning division's research, 7 lots out of 52 is somewhere in the neighborhood of 13%, which isn't quite the nature and character of the area, I believe, in my opinion. Take it or leave it, but just wouldn't want to create more 50-foot lots. And of those 7, how many are 54 feet? How many are 65 feet? We're talking 54 feet is a big difference from 65 feet. That's another 15 feet, which gives you a little bit more elbow room to build a house with. That's pretty, oh, the other thing was, I was wondering, of those 7 that you found in the 500-foot radius, how many of them were built prior to the enactment of the zoning code? So I think there's some that were built in 1927, from what I researched. So I don't know if the board would include that because there was no zoning at the time. So 50-foot lot in 1928 was probably okay.
Sure.
Yeah, and Ms. Fitzpatrick, if you want to just chime in.
Good evening. Thank you for listening to everybody. I am not in favor of this house being built. This house will be on top of my house within feet and the neighbor on the other side. I don't believe it would be part of the neighborhood. It's just going to be house, 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 house.
What is the width of your property?
75 foot. And I feel that where this house is going to be placed on the property, it's going to be way, way too close to my house, to the other neighbor's house, and no other houses in the area are like that.
You raise a good point. Is there a different location on the property that if the house were resituated, you wouldn't find it as offensive or you wouldn't object to.
I don't know where the house is planning on, it could go in the back, it could go in the front of the property. I don't know where it's going to be positioned.
Okay, well, so then I'm asking you, anywhere on the property, is there anywhere that's acceptable to you? And if there's not, there's not.
There's not, because if you put it into the rear of the property, a second story, you can see directly into my backyard, you could see directly into the pool. And the reason we love this property that we purchased was because of the elbow room, was because of the space. And when we purchased that property, it wasn't just that single lot, it was owned by, it was one large lot. So if you put it in the front, I will open my door and be looking at the side of a house.
I appreciate your concern and your comments. Just to let you know, though, that the applicant is not looking for any side yard relief at all, either side.
Mhm.
It's just lot size relief. So
Right.
if this lot hypothetically were large enough to build on, they could build 14 feet and 14 feet on either side.
14.
That's what they're asking for.
Right, I understand that. And I will be looking at the side of a house.
Right, but if this was 75 feet, I believe, wide, they can do
Right,
that.
I understand
You'd be
that.
looking at the side of a house, too.
Yes, but not right
I
there.
just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah.
It would be. No, it would be.
What
Let's
if-
say
It could be,
was-
not it
what
would be,
Chairman
it
said
could
was,
be.
Let's say it was 75 feet
Mhm.
wide. They could build it that much wider.
Right.
It would still have 14 feet.
Mhm.
So you'd still be looking at the same 14 feet.
Yeah.
They could do that.
Right.
Without coming here, they could thumb our nose at us.
I just wanted to let you know that they're not here for.
It's
side
just,
yard
right, I
setbacks.
understand. It's just, it's not going to be a good addition to the area.
I appreciate it.
And as they called it, a ghetto, the area is not a ghetto.
Well, I don't think he meant to.
I understand, he meant the piece of land, but that's not exactly,
The word's an Italian word.
yeah.
And it comes from the
Mhm.
steel foundry and the home is
Yes.
built around the steel foundry. Just a little history.
Repeat.
Yeah, it wasn't an appropriate word, I think, in my opinion.
We appreciate your comments.
Yeah. The way that he's left the property, it kind of does look like a ghetto with all the problems that it has, but we won't go there. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Have a great time. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Hello. Great. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Bonnie Chevius. I'm at 295 Fairview Avenue, the lot probably in question of the subdivision and directly south of the property.
Yep.
I'm not an attorney. I'm not a professional. I don't have a lot to say. I just want to speak my opposition to it for the same reasons. I don't feel like it fits with the nature of the neighborhood. That's not why I purchased my home, to be in a house next to each other, like I live in Brooklyn. I have 5 letters from surrounding neighbors that I would like to submit, just showing their opposition as well.
Give it to the officer.
You're right to the south of the property?
Ma'am, I always ask, I asked the prior person who spoke in opposition. I always like to ask, what is the width of your property?
54.
And they
Now,
want
it's
to
my
build on-
understanding that there's been no new construction built on lots under 75 in our neighborhood. Everything existing in the 50s is grandfathered.
Yeah, so how old is your house?
I don't know the exact date, but I believe it was in the 50s.
So it predates the zoning ordinance?
Yes.
Legacy, as Mr. Wexler would say.
Legacy. You're a legacy.
Feels good. See.
Thank you
I
very
don't
much.
have too much more to input. If nobody has any questions for me, I just wanted to give my opposition.
Great. Thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Joe Dallas House, 309 Fairview Avenue. I'm to the north end property. We're talking about. It's basically the same thing. You know, my wife and I bought the house. We liked the fact that there was some room to the left, there was some room to the right. And when the previous owner, the builder who bought the house that they fixed up, I guess he bought the property from, he asked me about, I'm going to probably put a house here, you know, where would you like it? And I'm like, you know, I'm on Nassau County Transport. And back then, it was like they took a tree down, they put a house up. Took a tree down, they put a house up. And I would hate to see Suffolk County, Islip, where I am now, start to do the same thing. I understand if it was 100 feet, 200, then that wouldn't be a question. If you put a house up and I would open my door and I would see a house, I look out my window, I understand. But now we're gonna start building on this, you know, as long as we could shoehorn a house in there, we're gonna put a house. And I would hate to see that's what's gonna start to happen to the neighborhood, because if I go back to where I used to live in Bethpage, and people were actually selling the back of their houses because they could squeeze a house on there. And it just became so overcrowded, which is why, one of the reasons why we decided to stay out in Suffolk County. My wife was living here and I moved out this way. So I would hate to see that this is what's gonna start to happen now, that if somebody else has a lot that's 48 feet, you know, where do you stop? Okay, 45 feet? All right, you know, where do you set the line to draw?
You ask very good questions.
How-
that we address every day.
And not for nothing, I appreciate your concerns, but it appears that the building on substandard sized lots in this area has been going on for 70 years. So it's not necessarily something, at least 70 years. So it's not necessarily something new that's just happening now.
I'm
There's a historic, I'm not saying that it means we have to grant it, but there is some historicity of doing this
I'm
in this
almost
area.
looking I don't know what's going on in the area. I can tell you about what's going on in my area. You know, I don't have all the information of all around the area. I'm just telling you what I see every day.
Sure.
And when I go into my backyard, I got a nice line of trees. I could actually sit on my deck and actually not even see a house because of the tree lines and whatever my wife and I improved onto the property.
Not like Bethpage.
Not like Bethpage. I can literally almost touch my neighbor's house where I was living. And, you know, I have nothing against the gentleman who bought the house or is looking to improve. It's got nothing to do with that, you know.
What is the width of your property?
76 feet, 75 feet, 76. But my property is actually to the right of the property, so it's kind of like moved over. So I have room on my left if you're looking at the house. And when we saw that this house had, you know, a big lot in between, I just thought it was one whole piece, and then we found out it was subdivided. You know, it was like it wasn't
Actually, it
oh,
wasn't.
whatever it was.
That's right.
You know, my apologies. I don't mean to say.
No.
No.
I'm just saying that that's something we have to wrestle.
That votes in your favor, potentially.
Right. But, you know, that's my thing. It's like, you know, for me, when I walk out my house, I walk to the left, I probably won't see it. My neighbor, I feel a little more bad for when she walks out, you know, it's gonna be right there. You know, now put it in the front, put it in the back. You know, I don't doubt that the house would be beautiful. You know, this quaint little house, I mean, it's not gonna be like
But it would
Charles
look
Ingalls is
nicer.
making it. It's gonna be a big house.
It would look nicer in Bethpage.
Yes.
Okay.
There's plenty, I'm sure somebody has a tree they'll take down and put a house up. But I assure you, that's what is that could possibly happen.
Thank
know.
you.
So this is my opinion on it.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Have a great night. Anyone further wish to be heard in this application? Its name and address for the record, please.
My name is Lucy Oliva, and I live at 308 Fairfield. I'm across the street. I'm 3 houses west of where this is all happening. I've lived in the neighborhood
Can you just speak a little louder, man? We can't hear you.
I've lived in the neighborhood since 1981. All I'm asking is to be a voice of reason. You haven't changed anything. This is a new precedent if you do it. But think of how the neighborhood is. Think about how we've lived. And I just would not like to see a change just to accommodate one house. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's the width of your property?
103 by, I think, 95.
I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
103 by 95.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Thank you. Any further comments? Come on up. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Mark Erickson. I reside at 288 Fairview Avenue. I directly live across from it. I have been in the residence since 2011. I was there. I assisted the previous resident to help settle the estate. They were out of state, so they helped settle. So I had a good visual of what was going on. I have one question, which is confusing to me. What is considered improving a property like that lot to be considered? Because it had a structure on it. It had a driveway on it. I noticed that was removed when the contractor tried to separate it. Now, I don't know. That's my thing. I thought that was always an improvement once you put a driveway in or the house number up. It just seemed to disappear when all of a sudden the lots tried to separate.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch, what was existing on this?
That, the entry, because the garage to that, the house that was built, 280, 295, the garage was round back. So the driveway used to go through that property and come around the back to the garage.
So the subject property we're talking about, you're saying had a driveway on it and not connected to the rear dwelling,
It
rear
did.
structure.
It did, that the driveway was around the back of the house. So basically, the driveway was never on the property until the house was divided. And I noticed all the shrubs were taken out and the driveway was smashed in there just so they could divide the lots. The house number was on that lot. So those, to me, like I said, as far as it was never divided, because basically it was always known as one address, as we always recognize it as. I've been there for 10 years and I only noticed this always started to happen when the property tried to be divided. I'm no expert, but I just know what I witnessed in the past 10 years. And I just noticed how it's convenient how driveways disappear, structures disappear when we want to sell it. And I'm not saying that they, but the previous owner did that.
Thank you.
Sir, I just can't let it go. What's the width of your property?
We are 102 by 282.
Okay. The reason I ask is that we get to learn the surroundings, so we get a full picture. So we're fair to everybody.
All right, thank you.
We have a Google Street View image confirming what you're saying. It's
Oh, it's okay. I wasn't too sure. I didn't know. If it
it's
was
a
the-
2012 image.
Oh, okay.
Thank
No,
you.
was it an
Thank you.
encroachment or was it common ownership?
If the driveway was on the subject parcel.
I understand that the property that the driveway serviced, was that in common ownership or was the neighbor interested?
No, I think it was in common ownership.
At that point, so
Yeah.
recently it's in common ownership.
Well, you have,
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions?
no, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep, any rebuttal, Mr. Mullin?
I'm just going to be very, very brief, Mr. Chairman.
What's the width of your property?
And I get the benefit of the exception. Yeah, I've got an oddly shaped lot. I've been at this for 32 years. I've never criticized any neighbor for taking the time to come down to a public hearing and express their interest or concern about what's going on in the neighborhood. Neighbors are always restive and they're ordinarily opposed to anything changing in the neighborhood. I submit to you, however, that the most radical thing that will happen here, if you accept the legal arguments that I've made, is that a lovely home will be built. In all likelihood, a nice family will move in, and just a short while after that, everybody in the neighborhood will forget about any acrimony at a zoning board hearing, and everything will be okay. I'm not going to belabor anything else. Not throwing you roses. Everybody knows it's a hot board. There's a lot of lawyers. Mr. Lorenzo is a title man. You right away focused in on the significance of the legal issues. And I think you'll take those up, and I know that you'll give every consideration to the cases that I advanced and the legal argument that I make. I look forward to your decision, and I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll make a motion that we reserve decision.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have 62 days by law, as you all know. We'll do the best we can, review some information.
Next application number 558-21, Sheikh P. Binda. Permission to erect detached garage 30 feet by 50 feet, not having 20 feet behind front line of the dwelling, residence AA districts outside of Lexington Avenue, number 66, 382.86 feet east of Commercial Boulevard through lot to Commercial Boulevard, Central Islip, New York. Name and address, please, for the record, sir.
My name is Jack Roseberry. I'm an architect. Mailing address 1029 Sip Avenue in Medford, and my lot width is 85 feet.
You don't have to take an oath here.
Gonna wave back.
We're going to wave back. That's right. Well done, Ms. Pissarro.
I do, by the way. We're just going to start off, my property is located between Lexington Avenue in the north and Commercial Boulevard to the south. The applicant seeks a front yard setback residence in the AA residential zone. The original application indicated the garage is the same line as the front yard of the existing residence off of Lexington Avenue. I had a consultation this afternoon with Deirdre Lying and Planning. I have a feasible alternative to this. What I'd like to present is the alternative of moving the garage back towards the commercial boulevard side, so it's a 40-foot front yard setback there.
So you're diminishing the amount of relief you need, right?
Yeah, diminishing the amount of relief on that side, yes. And
So how
I
many?
have photographs and the photographs of the area as well as a revised plot plan.
You don't need to amend the call.
No, yeah. So you're still not having 20 feet behind the front line, right? Correct?
I'm sorry, say that again?
You're still not having 20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling? I mean,
No, if we moved it to a 40-foot setback off of Commercial Boulevard, and we're 20 feet behind the front yard we're 20 feet behind the garage. I believe I need a variance for the Commercial Boulevard setback, because it's 40 feet. I have to leave that determination.
Because it's a through lot, you're saying?
Yeah, it's a through lot, from one end to the other is a through lot. The north is Lexington Avenue, the south is Commercial Boulevard. There's actually a pre-existing garage on the property on the Lexington Avenue side that's located 15 foot off the property line. In the front yard setbacks there is also a garage at 70 Lexington Avenue that has a setback of 15 feet. That's similar setback to the 15 feet that's indicated on our site plan. I've submitted photographs of that structure as well. Placement of bringing the structure back to be closer to Commercial Boulevard will have lesser impact on the community because the right of way of Commercial Boulevard is approximately 100 feet, 92 feet wide, and this width is for the electrical poles in the area. And there's no real change, it's a lesser impact. There's no impact on the local.
So what's on the property now in that garage?
What's on the property
What's
now?
in that garage now?
The garage is proposed.
Okay, what's the property being used for now?
The property is a residence, and he has a large truck that he wants to put away at night.
You have an existing garage, right?
Right.
What do you store in the garage?
Cars.
Commercial vehicles? Are there commercial vehicles on the lot?
No commercial.
No
vehicles.
commercial vehicles?
Yes.
They've never have been? There never have been? Oh. Sir, please be candid with us when we ask you a question, okay? Please, all right? Just be honest with us. Whatever it is, but just be honest with us. Because quite frankly, it goes worse for you if you're not telling us the truth, okay? Thank you. I'm sorry, sir.
Not a problem.
Go ahead.
Mr. Binder's command of English is not as fluent as I'm just trying to help him along
That's
here.
fine. If he doesn't understand, he can say so, and I'll rephrase. Okay.
All right, fair enough. As I said, it's my opinion that the proposed garage in a new location will have limited impact in the area, allow him to clean up, help him clean up his yard a little bit, be able to put things away, and it's really not considered a substantial variance in the final analysis. That concludes my presentation. I do have a copy. I don't know. I do have a copy.
Deirdre from planning. Any, what's your thoughts on?
What exactly are you proposing? Sorry, I'm a little confused.
The proposed garage is a 50-foot by 30-foot garage. It's strictly for storage of vehicles. The setbacks are 40 foot from the proposed, is going to be 40 feet from Commercial Boulevard and be 20 feet behind the house on 20 feet behind the house on Lexington Boulevard. It's my understanding, he would have to get a front yard relief because there are two front yards, even though there is a setback, we established that is the front yard, side yard, and rear yard, but it's still front yard on Commercial Boulevard.
Okay. So it's
At least to my understanding of zoning.
So it's like you're kind of like switching it. So instead of 40 feet from Lexington, you're making it 40 feet from commercial?
Right.
20 feet behind the front line of the dwelling, does he need to be here? Would it change that he
No,
would
'cause-
then need?
He's got a through lot, so he's got 20, he's got 40, 20 on both sides, right?
Right, that's my original understanding.
So it's 20
Right, but I'm saying
from,
you change then.
it's 20 and 20 from the property line?
No, you can't, you can't create, the front yard setback is, in the current proposal is 40 feet from Commercial Boulevard.
Okay.
It's not in the line of the house, they talk about the line of accessory being 20 feet
You're not
behind the
20
front
feet
yard,
behind the
which is
front line of the dwelling.
impossible in this application, because it's a through parcel, it's just not deep enough. I believe on the survey, the map I submitted, it shows the front yard
Yeah.
setbacks of both lines. There's just no way you could build a garage in that area.
I have a
that
Well,
question.
or you could build a smaller one possibly, but go ahead.
I have a question for, I guess, Will, our legal counsel. Can you store a commercial vehicle in a detached structure overnight? Is there certain exceptions to it? Is it a large garage? I'm assuming the applicant's looking to store a commercial vehicle or vehicles in the structure. Can you do that?
If you know, and if you don't, you can get back to us.
I'd have to get back to you.
I'm just curious, because I know you can't store them overnight.
Right.
Outside of the structure, but now you have a detached structure.
Question is whether you can do it inside.
Inside and out.
Right. I suspect in a residential zone, you can't, but Mr. Garbarino will educate us.
That's my question.
I'm sorry. So they're going to have two garages, the existing masonry garage.
Right.
And the super garage.
Right.
I believe it,
Well,
I believe the
correct.
existing masonry garage, not the super garage. I believe it has I think it has, according to the CO, accessory building converted, right? Garage converted recreation and storage room? It's on the CO. Oh,
Okay, so it is a recreational storage room. I didn't have that information.
Okay.
So.
Yes, absolutely.
I have that question, so. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Foley, is it?
Did you hand up a revised plan showing a new location?
Yes, I did hand up a revised plan showing the location.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We were going to reserve decision. We have 62 days, as you know.
Okay.
We'll do the best we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next application number 559-21, Cadmium Holding LLC. Permission to subdivide a lot into 3 parcels. Lot 1, to leave a 1-story dwelling having a side yard of 10.7 feet instead of required 14 feet. Lot 2, to erect 2-story dwelling on a lot having an area of 9,099 square feet instead of the required 11,250 square feet, leaving a floor area ratio of 29% instead of permitted 25%. And Lot 3, to erect a 2-story dwelling on a lot having 9,900 square feet instead of the required 11,250 square feet, leaving a floor area ratio of 26.7% instead of permitted 25. Residence A District, northwest corner of Ferndale Boulevard, number 960 and Coconut Street, Central Islip, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. For the record, Joseph F. Bizel. The firm is Bizel, Blander, and Visconti. We are at 535 Broad Hollow Road, Suite B4 in Melville. The application, as Ms. Messina indicated, concerns variances related to the subdivision of an oversized parcel. The property, as it appears on the aerial, is located on the west side of Ferndale Boulevard in Central Islip. It extends from the northeast corner of Coconut Street to about 100 feet or one house south of Banana Street. It's zoned Residence A. It has almost 298 feet of frontage along Ferndale, 110 feet of frontage along Coconut, which gives it a depth of 110 feet. The overall lot area is 32,749.2 square feet. The lot's level and grade. There is an existing 1-story residence located in the northerly portion of the lot. With an overall lot area of 32,749, that leaves the lot only 1,001 square feet shy of a three-lot division, which equates to 2.9% or 333.67 square feet per lot, which is de minimis. The complication here is configuring the new lot lines with the existing house in place. The house is in good shape. It's a nice home. They would like to leave it and leave that home on an oversized parcel. So the lot with the existing home would be oversized. All lots exceed the lot width requirement. Other than the south side yard for the existing home, they meet all setback and bulk criteria other than FAR for the two other lots. It's something near clustering because the lot area is not being apportioned evenly. But as it meets the width and setbacks, it's not visibly out of character with Residence Act. Parcel 1, which is the northerly lot, would contain the existing home. It would maintain 125 feet of width on Ferndale, which is well over the 75-foot width requirement. It would have 13,750 square feet of lot area, which is over the residential A requirement of 11,250. The only variance is a reduction of the south side yard from 14 to 10.7. But the north side yard is 47.6, so the total side yard of 58.3 is actually more than twice the total side yard requirement. The side yard variance is a result of the location of the existing house.
Mr. Bazell, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bazell, so let's assume, forget about the lot area for a minute. What are these types of variances in relation to the nature and character of the area?
There is one side yard setback. There's one variance per parcel, basically. The existing house has a side yard setback variance. The other two have FAR variances. As far as the existing house, it's an eclectic.
Forget about the existing house. Let's talk about the FAR variances. Are those in keeping with the nature and character?
I don't think they'd be out of character with this particular area. I drove the block today and I drove it extensively. There's a variety of house styles ranging from very small to quite large. The houses across the street are on 50-foot lots.
Right.
So and you have a lot of substandard lots, particularly along Ferndale. If you look at the aerial, you can see that the streets running east-west and the streets running north-south have different building criteria.
Yeah, I mean, my point is that this is the last big lot, it appears anyway, from what I'm looking at in the area, capable of this type of subdivision. And if you're subdividing it into something consistent with the surrounding community, then the variances are not particularly great, right?
I think the variances are consistent with the surrounding area. The only other large lot, as you can see here, is the Water District Authority, which also has a cell tower.
Doesn't count.
I don't count it as a residential lot in the community.
Right, it's a municipal.
If it's ever developed, it would be subject to a whole separate criteria and scrutiny. But there's not a lot of this size, but you could also see, you're not seeing lots with this much frontage. The lots on the east-west streets are larger lots because they have more depth. With a 200 street-to-street distance, you basically have two homes on the east-west portion. Across the street, we have 5. And as you go down the other blocks, you mostly have 4 and 5 running on Ferndale and the other north-south streets. So I think we're in character, and the FAR relief is minor, 26 and change and 29, still under 30. So I think this would be a positive development to this site in character with that area.
Do you have a list for us of the homes in a 500-foot radius and their sizes?
I didn't look at the 500-foot distance. I looked at the 200-foot distance.
500 is the new 200.
Well, no, because it's a subdivision. Because it's a subdivision, it's a 200.
200,
radius,
okay.
yeah.
So how many
You know, if you look at this, at the houses in 200 feet, writing off the water authority property, because that is
Before
in
you
the
get to
two,
that,
there's
can you just-
19
wait,
lots.
Before you get to that, can you just give me a number? How many, we'll use 200, that's the appropriate.
There are 19 lots.
How many properties are there that are the same size, wholly within a 200-foot radius?
Same size or smaller, I presume.
Or smaller, sure.
So there are 19 residential lots on the map. 7 are substandard. Of those 7, some of them are 10,000 square foot lots. You can see them on, I mean, they're all visible on that map. There are the 250 by 100s, which are smaller. There is a 75 by 110, which is a little smaller. The other 100 by 100s are undersized, but they're not smaller than this lot. These lots are 9 and change. The one that's 9,900, those lots are 100 feet
There
bigger.
are 3 lots that are smaller.
There are 3 lots that are, 1, 2, 3. There are 3 lots that are smaller. And then there are 4 lots that are slightly larger, less than for the 9,900 square foot lot, the other lots are 100 feet bigger.
Deirdre from planning.
And again, they meet frontage, they meet all setback, and on an overall area density issue, for 3 lots, we're only 1,001 square feet off. We just can't configure those lots evenly because of the existing house.
You sound just like Deidre.
You sound just like Deirdre. Deirdre, from planning. What's your,
I have no objections to this. There's 16, in the 500 foot that I looked at, there's 63 lots, 16 of which are undersized, so that's about 25%. And there's 2 other lots that were also granted with a plot area less than the 11,250 that were granted within the area. They're asking for minimal relief besides the lot area that we usually grant, like the under 30%, and there is a 29.3% FAR that was granted in the area. I wasn't able to find a side yard of 10 feet, but that doesn't seem that large of a relief when they're just trying to make the most of the giant lot they have. And opposite, there's also 3 lots, so it kind of seems like it would just be mirroring what's across the street.
all right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicoli, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the
Application granted, sir.
Thank you very much.
Have a great night.
It's a little
Good night,
strange to wear a suit for the whole day again.
Well, Mr. Bazell, I said it to one other applicant's attorney, I didn't recognize you because you enhanced your appearance with the facial.
You are my idol.
You need a better idol, my friend. Good to see you again.
Take
God
care.
bless.
Have a good night.
Have a great night.
All right, next application number 560-21. Lezek and Teresa Pejke, permission to leave driveway having front yard occupancy of 65% instead of permitted 35%, and shed having a side yard of 3.5 feet instead of the required 4 feet. Residence A District, west side of Jocelyn Avenue, number 1005, 583.31 feet south of Oakdale Street, Bayshore, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
No one here, second call?
Second call.
I move that it be dismissed.
I say we deny it. Oh, I have a lot of questions for Mr.
Sure you do, sir.
Some lawyers don't think I'm much of an expert, but anyway, go ahead.
Name and address for the record.
For the
please.
applicant, David Moran, 96 South Ocean Avenue, Patchogue, New York. Here today on behalf of the applicant, seeking we'll start with a variance for a shed in the side yard, currently maintaining 4 feet where the standard is 3.5. This area of the municipality consists of.
You got that backwards, maintaining 3.5.
Maintaining
instead of-
3.5 instead of 4, my apologies. This area of islip consists of narrow lots, extremely deep with garages and alike in the rear yards of most.
We see them all the time.
So in reference to this shed, it's negligible and at a half a foot,
We don't disagree.
doesn't stand out.
Let's talk about
Okay.
the driveway.
Driveway. I toured the area today. It's interesting as you come off the corner. If I'm gonna walk over this video, almost got it 3 times taking some photographs as people come off there. If you notice, at the end of the block on Jolson, there seems to be larger driveways. As you traverse down Jolson, specifically 1020 has a 3-car wide, has to go for 60, 80 feet. 1018 Jolson has 3.5 wide, 1009 has 3 wide. 1003 has 4 cars wide. It's the direct next door neighbor to the left. And as you go on Marion, which is the street you make the left off of, if you could scroll down just a little bit towards me. There's a couple of houses right before that corner, as you can see in the top right corner. It's basically all driveway. And the one at 1035 Marion, it's a U shape, and it's the house consists mainly of driveway over there.
Do we have approval though?
I don't know that. I would suspect not. I will tell you that the driveway itself is not outside the nature and character in this area. Specifically, as you head towards the southernmost portion of Jolson, as there seems to be makeshift parking around, based on the way the cars traverse around the corner, including, paving the right of way, those types of things. It seems to be a safety concern more than anything else.
Your client's at 65%. Instead of permitted 35. How do we justify 65% front yard occupancy in a neighborhood? Everyone can come and say 65%. I don't know how we justify that.
I think if we went out there with our protractors and rules, we'll find the majority of what exists on the ground is already there. We're here tonight because what my understanding is a fight with a contractor at the house, which led to a visit from code enforcement who knocked on our guy's door. Not that it justifies anything, but it's been there in its current condition for, I'm told, for over 20 years. Again, doesn't really sway this board except to say that it existed in this community without any complaint or standing out or a detriment to anything, except to maybe the applicants, if they can't use it anymore, to get their vehicles off the road based on the proximity to the corner. I don't know, and maybe your planning representative could help out to see if anything was ever granted here. Because like I said, within the radius, specifically on Marion, you have a U-shaped driveway that looks like a 7-Eleven parking lot. And then on Jolson itself, there's at least 2 or 3 that are at least 3, 3.5, or 4 cars wide, running basically the entire either left or right side of the house, all the way into the backyard, because these lots are extremely deep.
You hit it on the head, though, Mr. Mayor. I believe that your clients, according to the picture here in the survey, is the full width of the property with the U shape and 2 driveways on either side. Some of those houses that you were speaking of are on one side of the property leaving grass. And I believe that's what the ordinance was looking to accomplish, is not have the entire front yard paved. I love pavement. I hate grass. I'm Italian. I can do everything. But I can't because I'm not allowed to. The ordinance says no. So that's what I'm a little stuck on. And I appreciate your argument. I just don't know how we can say, everyone else that we've said, you can go up to 40 from 35, how we can say 65% on your client. That's my only.
Again, my client's seeking to keep what has existed there for quite some time. I've been doing this for a minute as well, and I explained to my client that the likelihood of 65%, absent a compelling argument like possibly traffic safety and other things approved by this board existing in the radius, we're probably not going to land at 65. If the board's uninclined to grant 65, again, I don't know if there's a planning report here that suggests anything has ever been granted in this area, but if you traverse it, you would see that it doesn't stand out. You drive right past it.
Deidre, from planning.
There's no precedent.
I know on the last one, and I see people in the audience, you just see if I can address any of their concerns, if there is any.
Sure.
If you guys don't have any other
Does
questions.
anyone wish to be heard in this application? Are you guys here for this application?
Come on up
Would you
and
like
be
to be
heard if
heard?
you'd like.
Are you here for Jolson Street?
Good evening. I am owner of this house.
You're the owner of the house?
Yes.
Oh. how
And
you say?
when
Let me guess, you're in favor of the application.
I am owner of this house, and I want to explain, when we bought this house, we don't have nothing driveway on front. Okay, this property is very bad, and over 22 years ago, we're hearing Atlas Asphalt company, and nobody tell me about this restriction, what is for driveway. He built very fast, very bad work, you know, and after 22 years, we have problems now.
22 years
You know,
Correct.
but
No, I appreciate that.
we exactly need this driveway, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and your comments.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Forgive me, Mr. Chairman, I was just speaking to my client in reference to the scaling the driveway back some. He thinks he could accomplish his desired goal at 45%.
Well,
That helps them.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
no, you're the chair.
No, just go ahead.
No, it's fine. I'm good. Thank you.
Deirdre, is there any chance you can pull up some aerials of this property to see,
Like,
like back to 2006?
2006 or prior, please. Yeah, 2006. There you go. And where's the subject property? We'll leave it in 2006. Where's the subject?
Right
And,
there.
and that's the same driveway?
Same driveway.
exists in 2006. And I think since he bought it 22 years ago.
Yeah, but is it that driveway for 22 years? So it may predate, Mr. Moran, so why don't you let us take a look at that?
Please.
And we'll,
So I'm clear, your argument, Mr. Moran, is that if it predated 2006, it's a legal non-conforming.
That is the argument. It's almost hearing it from an expert.
Don't get his head too big, come on.
I'll tell you why.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
I'll move that we reserve decision. Take a look at this.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good seeing
All in
everybody.
favor? You know, we have 62 days by law, we'll do the best we can.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I believe we have 10 accessory apartments. I'd make a motion that we approve all 10, please.
All in favor? Application is approved.
You want to do it?
Oh.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right.
All right, all right, all right. Can we shut these off now?
Uh,